backup data of the housing, the geographical spread, the demography, and the people occupying different areas in the country, it's going to be very difficult to plan for school children. It's going to be very difficult to plan for the women, and even to know the amount of unemployed or employed citizen. So census plays a very important role in planning activity for any country, and it's something that you shouldn't take lightly. It's something that every government should be very mindful of, because it determines how to. Because when you talk about the economy of a state, it is the accumulation, the distribution of the resources of the state. So how you distribute the resources of the state is determined by the counting of the people who inhabit or populate the states. So without that backup or that information or that big data, so you'll be walking in the blind. It's like walking in darkness, trying to say this policy should be more given priority than other. Do you have a growing population? Do you have a dying population? Do you have everything about the country is determined by the census statistics and the demography of spread. So census is very, very important to count not just census, but also the population and the housing. Because in 1991, we incorporated it in our census. We as a people have evolved in our census. Census started in Nigeria far back in 1866 and was followed by 1971, 1881, and also 1891 and 1901. But subsequently, there were so many things that made census in Nigeria not to, though then it was restricted to the Lagos colony. It was not fully spread. And that census in 1971 marked the beginning, because there was an attempt to make a robust kind of census, because now, having been amalgamated in 1914, I wanted to know how many we are. But there was a lot of problem that time. The Aba women riot also did not allow them to conduct the census around the eastern region, and quite a number of one. Now, another bold attempt was in 1931, but that was a locust invasion in the north. So that locust invasion in 1931 made most of the enumerators, so people who were supposed to be census staffs, were drafted into anti-locust control. So the census in 1931 did not take off. But we can say that census in the 1952 census was actually the beginning of census in Nigeria. But the problem with that one was also, what is the problem of Nigerian census since then, which is the contestation of the results. People, in fact, the government of the day rejected the census, which led to 1962 population census, which they had to go and settle in the Supreme Court. And in the process of settling in the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court made it obviously that the government does not have right to interfere with whatever result that the national population then, or whatever body that conducted that census did. But to give it to the credit to the military era in 1901 that conducted what we call a modern census. And because they used all the necessary parameters, acceptable parameters to do the census. Because some of the census that were conducted earlier in the 1930s and the census were done differently. It was done, it was staggered. The North were doing their own, then the South will do their own later. But that of 1991 that was set by the military council by a degree of, we call it the degree of, by art of degree, that one employed all the modern techniques of census, and it was done simultaneously. And it was counted, and from there, the thing continued to evolve. But there's something we always find interesting in Nigerian census, is that there has always been political contestations on the census, and has not given the room to say census has been conducted and everybody have to accept it free and fair. It has been contested as the way we contest our elections. So because you could imagine in that 1960 63 census that the government declined. That particular one was negotiated. So instead of coming up with, okay, this is what we counted, this was what we enumerated, it was something that had to be negotiated at the end of the day. That's why some people went to Supreme. The critics criticized it.
So when did the politicizing of census begin? Has it been like that from word go, or did it just change at some point? Because the average Nigerian today believes that the headcount may not be working in regards to the budget, making plans, governmental plans for the people. They have a different thought pattern regarding his census. And just as you have mentioned, you talked about the elections. Most recently, the electoral body has been able to convince the people that, you can go out and vote. And that's why we're able to see people come out, en masse to vote in the last elections. But for the census now, did the politicizing of the idea of census begin from word go, or did something change at some point?
In 2006, for the first time, they conducted both population and housing census, and they tried using scientific method, because all the other census we had in the past were not
more like head counts.
Yeah, well, more of it, and it was like, just go get us numbers and we just do, because at the end of the day they contested it. Not that before like in 2006, enumerators go and enumerators, okay, these are the parameters. They are using what they call a global positioning system. These are scientific satellite imagery to carve out georeferencing. Now, you just don't just do it that way. You see, the issue is that there are innovations when it comes to census enumeration and census counts and censusing. But in census counting, the idea back then was just let us know how many we are, and it is a political bargaining chip.
Yeah.
As at then, okay, we are the major ethnic group. So if there's anything that the Europeans want to discuss, you should discuss with us, because we are not minorities. We are a major ethnic tribe in Nigeria. So everybody was trying to put more number or the other. So that was the problem until 2006, after the 1991, the military decree 23 that they used to create a national census board. So the 2006 census was a clear departure, because that was where the scientific demography or the scientific census was for planning, was not actually asking which tribe, religion, and quite a number of things. We have to have the statistics for planning. And that is where census actually, I think, that was the main, but it is not free of political contestation too, because there was still some old mindset that it is is the political bargain, is a bargaining chip, because, for example, it determines why we should create more states.
Yeah.
It determines why we should create more local governments. It determines what goes where, because the population of a place it determines the amount to be allocated from the national resources.
Yeah.
So some people are still with that mindset that the more we give figures, the more comes to our locality.
So the question is, what would be the import of a census that ends up not being true? Since some people want to give more numbers, because we have heard of rumors that animals get counted at some point. You have inflated figures. Yes. So what's the essence of the census in the first place?
See, as I said earlier on, census
if the figures will not be true,
very important that we know that in this particular building, the number of people that come into this building always. So when we want to reinforce this building, both the structural, or we want to give allocation, or there's an emergency, or whatever happened, we are sure that we are coming. So we are bringing in vehicles or whatever machines we're bringing into this building. We know that we're going to rescue a certain number of people. But from where we are coming from, we have this tribal and ethnic divide, and we always seen ourselves as different people before the amalgamation and the Nigerian thing. Now, we have always seen ourselves first as from our ethnic bloc before we see ourselves as Nigerians.
Yeah.
So everybody is still fighting from that default line. And when you are giving figures, people bloat figures, people or other people undercount some other sections so that give those people less prominence in national polity. But the whole thing is wrong. It is not the right thing, because the actual figure, and that's why you see we're still having problem about, if you come to modern Nigeria now, we're talking about how much of fuel do we consume, petrol do we consume as a country. Nobody, even if you go to NNPC, they can't tell you the accurate number of consumption of petroleum.
Because we work on estimated figures.
So the idea is, if everybody is well illuminated, the housing is well illuminated, we know we're having housing deficit.
Okay.
We know we have a rising population or we have a declining population. Do we need to open our borders for more people to come in so that Nigeria will not cease to exist? If it was a not aging population, we are having growing population, that means that we should have to grow more industries for youths so that we tame unemployment. Then is it something that has to do with we're having more school children, all those things? We need to plan our education so that it can become functional. So these are the vagaries, these are the nitty-gritties that population comes with.
So before the cancellation of the present
April
one,
23rd.
Yes, someone was sharing a concern with me that his neighbor said that this census that made them count us know how many we remain, so that they will know how to kill us. So the average Nigerian seems to have a bad feeling about the idea of census. So what do you think we should do to change that? Yes.
You see, it's not just ordinary Nigerian. If you read the dailies, you discover that Afani Ferre was concerned about security. The census was it should have happened immediately after the election, before it was cancelled. Afani Ferre was concerned about security and people that have been displaced from their natural homes before, as a result of some crisis. And also, there was the call, where they are doing sit at home, that kind of thing. So there's so many reasons that people are apprehensive about the census. Because you see, the evolution of census in Nigeria, we got it wrong. It is not a tool for determining prominence or strength or power. It's just a statistical tool to see how to develop Nigeria. So it's a mindset thing we have to change.
And how possible is it?
It's a work of National Orientation Agency, and it's the work of the Minister of Information to try as much as possible, and also for people who are in the census population. Because why the 2006 population really succeeded, and 1963 population really succeeded, was so much publicity, and in that publicity through radio, people were told actually what it is for. Though the 1963 own was contested in the Supreme Courts. But the idea is people need to understand that this is a statistical tool for determining development, or for apportioning resources, not just apportioning resources, but to know how to govern the people.
So you are an economist. From the economical point of view, can you tell us what we are losing by not, conducting the census? From 2006 to 2023 is about 17 years.
Yes.
So within 17 years, Nigeria has been going on. Plans have been made and, agenda set and achieved, some not achieved. Would you be blaming that to the unavailability of the know-how regarding how many people the Nigerian government is dealing with or caring for, as it were?
You see, from the traditions of census, it's decennial. Decennial that is supposed to be every 10 years.
Yeah.
And if you see the first time it was conducted in Nigeria, we were doing it every 10 years. That though was restricted to Lagos Colony. That 10 years decennial census helped the British government to plan when it was in Lagos Colony. So that's the tradition. Now, if we have been doing it at May every 10 years, we would have known, we shouldn't be estimating Nigerian population at this state. Now, the biggest economic problem you are facing is that is either you are underutilizing your population strength, or you are not utilizing your resources, or you don't even know the housing deficit that the country is in. Now, the idea of census, I have said, and I'm going to say again, is that it is for planning. So a country that has stayed 17 years, that's off tune with the actual count of his state, of his people, then might not be in the best place in the planning of how to enhance the strength of his people, or reinforce the strength of his people, or even help the people realize, because it's about the human capital we're looking at. Now, you don't even know our number of doctors that have left the country, or our number of doctors we have in Nigeria. We might not even know how many of our nurses, we won't even know how many of our engineers, because census captures these demographics.
Details, yes.
Yes, it captures women, captures men, captures their occupation, their number, size of the family. Because you see, if you go to places like China, where because of they look at the family size. So when you are planning for a mother, you're planning for a father, probably 2 or 3 children. You understand? So anything beyond that, you know that average home, how much does it take for 5? And that's why recently we're saying, okay, I think the humanitarian office, the minister of humanitarian, I think she was saying that they have been able to enumerate the poor of poor. You know, that kind of thing, that they are doing home feeding, and in fact, there's money they are collecting from one bank to satisfy those particular things. So you see, that statistics has its own issue, because it is enumerated if it was done in census, it would have been an easy to say, okay, this is the demography, this is the number. So it's all encompassing. It's all encompassing. It's a broad way of doing things that it's easy for. They're out there. You are saying, okay, if I drop this amount of money here, if I want to localize an industry, do we have the youths that can supply this labor for this industry to go on? Now, the occupations here in the north, is it for just farmers? Do we have the sizable technical people? Okay, want to bring a coding institution. So where do we have youth so much that we want to leverage by their capacity and strength to localize those things? These things help in localizing. So Nigeria has lost so much, I must confess, for not having a accurate than census or number of its people than estimated numbers.
Okay, so the about $1.8 billion was earmarked for the census alone, and it was promised that just like the elections, it would be more of the digital, right, method that would be used. So what's the possibility of getting it right, as it were, given that we still have issues with the digital method of doing almost everything in Nigeria? JAM, you know what happened with JAM, and every other sector I would not want to mention due to time. So is there a possibility of spending this huge sum of money and we may still not get it right? We may still not get the confirm
we have
from the 1.8 billion,
because we've done the primary enumerations.
Exactly.
We thought that we wanted to go ahead with the main census thing before it was cancelled. So what I'm saying is that, see, I have said it and I've said it. Nigeria, to go for census, does not need people to stay at home or call for holiday, even elections. Because you see, there are existing databases already.
Exactly.
People have national identity number. People have a driver's license. People have what they call it in the bank now,
BVN.
BVN. So basically, every Nigerian have been captured somehow or somewhere.
Children are in school.
Yes, or you've used the international passport. Now, it could be, it should have been what we call a kind of a data bank already to confirm that this person exists, so that we know the people who are dead, people who are children, and to confirm whatever statistics we already have in some of our data banks scattered, because this is about synchronization of data. So we come, if you say you are Ohamara, we should know that there must be an Ohamara in our database. Okay, is it this Ohamara? They will get the scopes and reinforce the information that in our database than creating a new set of database that probably every next 10 years again will call for another one. So this is what I'm talking about. For me, if I have an ATM, as I said during the election times, that I can go to a bank and withdraw so much money from the bank, and nobody, I don't need anybody else interface between me and the machine, that I get the money. So why can't I? Okay, I can even do it with my own phone. So why can't we also do such things? Okay. It's about deploying technology to do it and seamlessly.
Also, given the fact that Nigerians are not mentally ready for the census, at what point should that be, done? You ask a Nigerian, not too long ago, we had the elections that seemed to have, raised a lot of dust, and the issue is still in court. And so do you think the Nigerian will be ready for a census, another activity that big, anytime soon?
You see, we were as ready as 2016 when the census should have come. But General Buhari just came into government and was still working towards it. Then in 2017, we had a recession.
Yeah.
So it was cancelled. And we moved it to this state. So you see, 17 years, depending on estimate of UNESCO, depending on estimate of other people about us, does not say too well about us.
Okay, so please, we'll continue with the conversation, but we need to run for this commercial. When we come back, we do more. Stay tuned.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Nwachukwu. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.
You may have to follow us, like the page, and continue listening or watching as the case may be. Also, before we left for the commercial break, we were still conversing on the topic, and we have been talking about the idea of census in the first place. That was the background to it, and to the point of cancellation of the census. Do you think the cancellation was not an act of chickening out since we have put our hands to the plow?
As we have spent 291 billion out of the 869 billion given to you. Are we profiting? So why chicken out when in the first place you spent almost 291 billion naira out of 800 and something that was a billion that was given to you? So it is something that was not well thought of and was not well planned.
It was actually 1.8 $8 billion. Oh, you're speaking in Naira now. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So when you spend 291 of 800 something million, you understand that that money will not come back again. And we are looking at a country that is paying so much debt, on so much debt, and the debt to revenue ratio is so high. And we're looking for also money. We're making subsequent supplementary budgets to be able to cushion so that the new administration can come and run the government with that. So there are so many things on ground. So the issue is not about the money actually, because the money has been provided. The issue is the will to do it. Now,
but would it have been okay to still conduct it so close to the elections that just passed? Wouldn't it have been so much a burden to even, the common man on the street?
The first time, it's like while driving. I always tell people, like while driving, the first intention to move, if you delay, that's why people have accidents.
Okay.
It's obvious. The first attempt to move, if you delay, that's why people have accidents. So the way we were planning, we knew that some years back, before this day, that immediately after election, money was given out so that we'll conduct a census. Now, after the election, we've done primaries, people were engaged, some people have been trained, money has been sent out to train enumerators, and quite a number of people, agents has been trained to go around Nigeria to count for housing demarcations and whatever they are doing. Now, we've done half of the payment, or we've even spent how many percent of the money that was allocated for it, and you're calling. Why all these things? I've said we must move from looking at census from consumption to economic planning. It is not for my state have the highest population, so you must give me the highest allocation. My state has the more population, we will have highest political representation. That is the main problem. It is more for economic planning. Okay, this is the problem, this is the deficit in housing in this particular place. So the Federal Housing Commission or the Federal Minister of Housing should know that we have house deficiency in a particular region, so that we create more housing projects. We have issues of schools by enumerators, because part of the housing enumeration also covers schools and institutions. So we know where we don't have some particular kind of institutions, or what is more because with the global positioning system and satellite imagery, we can learn a lot about movement of people as a result of the banditry and all stopping. People, some communities has left. So how do we probably those soil is where we used to grow maybe maize, we used to grow some special wheat and quite a number of like places in Jigawa and all those places. So how do we plan to take these people back so that we can get those things we're benefiting from? So census help you understand why people moving from one place. Abuja 3 years ago is not as populated as it is today. Let me just give you a practical economic example. I just want to give you a practical economic example so you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Abuja was not as populated as it is 3 years ago. So what has attributed the increase in population? And the infrastructure that is in Abuja was created for that population as at that time. Now, that's why you see, if you're going back through Airport Road and you have a flight to catch, probably towards the evening, you will lose that flight, because people have started moving towards that axis, because housing challenges have made people move towards the Airport Road. So also with the Kaduna Zaria Road. So it is census that help us. Okay, the population has tripled in Abuja. How do we create more infrastructure?
Okay, so the reason given by the MPC was that they would want the new administration to get, come in and be abreast of the method they would be using for the census and a whole lot more. And I would also want to add that the elections just came in February and March, and, we want to rush people into doing census again. Is the average Nigerian ready for these major events happening almost pari passu?
My question is, while you were planning, did you envisage this thing will happen this way? So, and you have already planned, not just planned, and have made budget, and we have started spending from that pocket, from that envelope.
And with the postponement, some of the people who have been trained may travel out. Some may even die, sadly. And so you need to do retraining.
So you have to. Where will you get the variations for this budget? Because everything will not wait. These are the issues. That's why I said, in driving, if the second thought is delayed, it's disaster. So that is how, the same thing. What I'm saying is that you cannot have the same value with the kind of rising inflation in the world today when you decide to go for, when this new administration has settled down and decide to do it, we will now have to factor in the variations. And so, it will not be too good for Nigerian economy. That's it.
Considering the pause now on this, what's the possibility of accountability regarding the amount of money that has been spent already and the leftover? And for how long will we wait again? It's been postponed indefinitely. So we do not have a time frame in mind that in 6 months this would happen.
So it's indefinite postponement. But the question we ask that there's a global rising inflation. That the money you have today is not the same money you have tomorrow. Also,
as an authority in what you do as an economist, right, what are you proposing that they should, what you're saying is the census would have been carried?
There was no reason for not carrying that if we had the plan to
what
do
if
it.
They were not ready?
Then why did we vote?
If the data is not correct, would it be necessary?
There's a process of project implementation. There's that part where you think about it. There's a part you plan about it, and also it is being criticized or whatever, or being oversighted. Let me use that word rightly. So by necessary bodies to see if it is feasible or realistic. All these things has passed through those stages. We are already in the stage of implementation. 291 billion naira has been spent from the budgeted money, and you come up one day and say, it is cancelled indefinitely. So when you decide to
postponed.
do it, okay, sorry, use the word postponed indefinitely. Then when you decide to come up to do the stuff later on, you cannot do it. You must have to inject new funds, and the one you are keeping will not be adequate because money is depreciated. It's not just about Nigeria; it's a global thing. Inflation is rising.
All right. So at this point, we'll bring in my listener. Please, you may call now on 0700 951 0000 or 080 959 74869. Send in your messages to WhatsApp to 080 999 30137. It's quite an interesting conversation, and we would be looking at both angles. So what if the census actually went on, and what would have been the benefit and the pitfalls so far? But let's take the view of our listener first. Hello.
Hello, Debby.
Hi. Good afternoon to you. Let's talk.
Appreciate your guest. It's no bias. It's saying it the way it is. Census issue in Nigeria is politically motivated. It has religious coloration. It has many vested interests showing their interest in whatever happened with the census. It is allocation is being, the figures are inflated most of the time. So it's not credible. There was never any credible census anywhere. But we are, as observers, we are not great thinkers. You have to align yourself with strategies of governance in order climb. Just nearby South Africa, in 1994, when South Africa got World Cup hosting right, they did not conduct census of South African people. What Mandela government did is that they embarked on building housing estate, 1 million housing estate, housing unit. I'm sorry. So they used that 1 million housing units to host the World Cup in South Africa. After the World Cup, they share those housing units to eligible South Africans who are in it. And in China, They are always strategic of conduction sensors. They conduct sensors, but it takes time. But what they do is that our targets we are going to produce aeronautic 500 million Chinese aeronautic engineers. ICT 200 million. That is how they set their strategy. Our own is holo sensor. Holo. Jump for the voice. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your thoughts. Hello. Good afternoon to you. Welcome,
God
sir.
bless you, my dear sisters. Good afternoon, our guests. God will bless you. Thank you, Mr. Waka. When this calling, when the issue of this census came up, last month, I said it on this platform where when he was there, that we should share this money. Every one of them was thinking about if we share it, each of Nigeria will collect 4,000. Is it not better for me to collect the 4,000 now than this 119 billion will go to someone's pocket? So last year, 177 billion was budgeted for the same census. They didn't return it back to the government cover. They didn't return it back to the government cover. What I would say, you understand, sir? Look at now, another 800 billion. They now postpone it indefinitely. By the time they will come back another census, you will hear that they need maybe 1.6 billion. My brother, okay, now, can we go and meet the chairman of MPC to tell us where we keep the money? All the enumerator that they are talking about. You remember, sir, recently, they complain about those, that the enumerator, that they are angry because they didn't give them their allowances. What's like this in this country? Now, we will be hearing billion, and no, we are not succeed with that. Masses are suffering.
All right.
Don't believe them. They didn't buy any instrument. You will still hear it again when they brought the issue back.
No, they bought. They were preparing. They bought instruments.
Okay, by the time they will come and see Debby, next year, maybe they will go with the same 800 billion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, they share our taxpayer. Abba.
All right. Thank you for your thoughts on that. Let's take this, then we come back for a conversation. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, my name is Emeka calling from Abuja.
You're welcome. Let's talk.
I want to talk about this census. Hello?
Yes, let's talk. Go ahead. You have a minute.
This census they are doing in Nigeria, I don't like it. Because they take this census to teach one particular state or one particular region. Because in the other region, that's a Muslim in Nigeria, they have one person have 4 wives and 30 children. Have you heard it before?
Well, I think you're veering off. You're going off on a tangent. I think you formed a particular opinion that we will not even want you to sell. Okay, we have people in other regions who have more than 4 wives. Yes, and I can even mention a name. Yeah. Okay, we have House of Reps members and exactly.
So that's a religion thing. Yeah.
Okay, so can you comment on?
Yeah. You see, the only way we can do these things without having all this controversy is when the emphasis, the underlying principle, the underlying value or philosophy for census in Nigeria is defined as economic planning, not for political representation or consumption. And another thing again is that when we are deploying this technology, we don't need to do all this political shenanigans. The whole thing is scientific. We already have a database. All we just want to do is to confirm. You don't need, whoever is in Nigeria now, without a NIN number, you can own a phone number. Mm-hmm. You can have a bank account. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit, let's go to MPC and reshuffle the house so that we look at young men that can think scientifically. Yeah. Come in on the board. So if there's an Ohamara or Mazukra for James that's nowhere, we go and see he's there. Mm-hmm. We capture his biometrics. Yeah. We capture his facials, everything about him. Like we just confirm that this person exists. And what is his profession? What does he do? And where is he staying? Does he have a house? How is he what age? Does he have his own housing? You know, that kind of thing. So the kind of employment, is he underemployed or is he an employee of labor? So we have all those statistics to help us and disabuse the minor. Because the issue is, you can't say let's do population based on ethnic group anymore, because you come to a place like Abuja where it's so cosmopolitan. Every other person has come to Abuja, and we count the people in the state, not the locals, because the locals cannot make up the population of the state. So when we count, we don't count because we want political representation for Abuja. No, we count because we want to know the quality of people we have in Abuja, and what are their trade, what are their capacity, so that we can know when we want to do things where to go to.
Now, the UNFPA, that's the United Nations Population Fund, gave an estimate of over 200 million Nigerians. How did they get that estimate? Is it also possible for the NPC to borrow a leave from the method they use to get the estimate, and rather than conduct a huge census, borrow a leave, find a way around collecting the data that you have mentioned now to get us an estimate? We could even be below that 200 million.
No, we wouldn't.
And possibly above. So
we're looking at 214, 230, 250 something.
But why are you so sure we will not be below? There has been death.
We are a growing population.
Okay.
We are a growing population. You can't take it off. If I'm not saying because of what I see, but I know that we're a growing population. It's not a situation where if you go to Japan or South or North Korea, you discover that people don't even marry, and that more often people don't even have children. You have an elderly people without children, without wife, and all they do is work and themselves. But in Nigeria, we're so productive.
Yeah.
I'm talking about we are really, really productive.
1 man, 20.
So you go to the hospitals, if we really see, it's a simple system. All we need is go back to our hospital, how we used to do it. Register birth. How many births are registered? Even those days, even if you give birth at home, you go to the hospital and register the birth. Because now, if you want to go to school, you want to go to school, they will ask you for the birth certificate. Before a child is given any attention anywhere, his birth certificate, that it is well recorded in the country. But now all these things are flawed. Some private schools take students, wards, pupils without birth certificate. Now when somebody is dead in the hospital, you also register the death. So it's a way of minus and plus.
I think just as you had mentioned before, the what's it called now? National Orientation Agency needs to do a whole lot, because we have situations whereby parents will tell you they will not register the birth until the child gets to a certain age, so that they could reduce the number of years of this child. So a child was born last year, and you wait until like 3-4 years before you say the child was born. Peradventure, the child does not go to school early enough, or does not get admission into the university early enough, because of the years at which the child is expected to go to NYSC. Parents say this thing, they do the calculations. Therefore, death. Those who are not able to get their retirement benefits will say, oh, my papa been don't suffer. You see that money? My papa never die. We will collect retirement benefits. So they would shy away from registering these things.
You see, why we say build, when Bill Clinton came to Nigeria, I say, it's not about the individual. It's building strong institutions. Even as at the 80s, when Nigeria was still not as sophisticated as it is today, we got it right. You don't just enter into... I remember that time, I grew up in Jos, so we used to have like Mayangwa. You can't enter into a new community without being registered by the Mayangwa. And the local native police will have information that somebody new has come into this territory. So also, you can't go to hospital and give birth. Or even if you give birth at home, they will bring us from the community center to come and register the birth. They document the child. So before you go to school, that's one of the most important documents, not birth certificate. And if you are leaving school to another school, you must get your transfer certificate. So all these things were necessary. It is the rudimentary documentary evidence that every country use to do estimates or to do all these things. But in Nigeria, people just give birth. Nobody's not registered until when it is needed. The child will start looking for a forged court affidavit.
Exactly.
You go to Court of Appeal or one court and get a sworn age.
Sad.
You see, a lot of people have more sworn age than the original document of certificate. So these are the things that probably the new administration should also be thinking about. How can we go back to our rudimentary recording system that any child that is born must be recorded? that this child was born at the time he was born, where he was born. And we keep that statistics in the back end. Then when the child is at the school, we can always confirm.
Yeah.
So nobody will wake up one day and start reducing his age or falsify his age, because there is national data where we have all this information. So also when the person is dead, we say this person has exited. And we know we might not see it from our population. So by the time when we are doing estimate or whatever we are counting, we are looking at, okay, what is the death in this place? What is the birth in this place? So how many people, if these people are still remaining, we'll go to NIN and call these people. We have their numbers, we have their bank account, we see whether these people are still so all we do is just to confirm that in this particular state, we have 2 people living. There's Ohamara and there's Mazi. They are still here. One is working already, one is an economist. And it's statistics. So when we are planning, we know that these people are a little bit sophisticated, their age and everything. So we know, estimate how many children they can have at this time. But all these things, we know, okay, how many of them will go to the university in this locality? Is the university enough? We plan for, you see, there's somebody that made mention that he went to School of Economics to study abroad. And they were talking about economy, European economy, American economy. I got to the African economy. They say Africa does not have economy. I say, the Africans do not plan. Do you know that the Europeans have a plan for, I thank God, I think the day before yesterday, I saw the president doing a vision, something.
Vision 2050.
At least, thank God, we have a roadmap. Because it died with Abuja, as nobody was doing any vision anymore.
No, Yar'Adua did Vision 2020.
So and you see that there was a radical change. Even if we didn't follow it pari passu, but there was a plan. Because that's the thing. When there's no plan, we can't go anywhere. It's like we don't have a goal. We've not set goals. Okay, we want to attain the country. We want to shoot satellite in so orbit. We want to be able to do digital this. We want to do so. And everybody is moving along in each sectorial development. So these are the issues.
So a listener at the time who preferred to remain anonymous alleged that it is an intentional negligence to put this data together, because if the data is properly put together, you would be able to fish out criminals. You'll be able to curb the idea of insecurity, insurgency, and the rest. So in this regard, do you ever think that since it is assumed that there are some people benefiting from insecurity and the likes, is there a possibility of working out plans to properly gather the data of Nigerians?
I would disagree with the anonymous person, because it is sheer ignorance. You know, it's a carpenter who hits a nail and he bends his style. We are just because if it was peculiar to Nigeria, I would say there's a plan. This is peculiar to every African country. Peculiar to Africans. We don't plan. Go and read Kissinger's book about Africans. Do you know how much of deposit is in Africa? That if Africa wake up one morning and decide to enhance and plan for his citizens, no part of the continent will challenge them. All these things are left to, according to Professor Ali Mazuri, he say necessity is the mother of invention, but abundance is the mother of inertia.
Okay, let's see the messages we have here. I sense you must be beautiful. Okay, sorry. It was from the other segment. Yeah. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Debbie, and the guest in the studio. Please, can the guest explain to us how the criminals in the bush as kidnappers would have been counted without the enumerators risking their lives? And if they are not being counted, how can we say we would get accurate figures we need? Thanks, Paul West Iduha from Kubwa sent that in. This one here is a lengthy one, but let's take this one first. Good afternoon, ma'am. Love your show. As much as we know the importance of a census exercise, which is basically for planning, what is worth doing is worth doing well. Yeah. If the populace is not mentally and psychologically ready for the census, then we are heading for a failure in the census exercise because we need people's cooperation for it to work. Since census is for planning, those responsible for conducting it, talking about the NPC, should have had a plan B. If they don't, they should create one now. Also, the money spent already doesn't waste. My 2 kobo regards to the guests and have a wonderful deliberation. Golden Pearl in Gwarimpa sends that in. And this one here is saying, good afternoon, Debbie and your guest. My name is Obedient Elder Comrade Tony. I am a retired pilot and a geographer. There has been a concerted effort in Nigeria since the 1973 population census conducted by General Yakubu Gowon, which was acceptable to a large extent. But the moment it was touted to be the avenue for national resources, the northern part of Nigeria began serious agitations that they have the largest population. But my geography has taught me that there is more longevity of life with less mortality rates in the riverine parts of the world. Than you have less life and very high mortality rates in the Sahelian regions of the world, like the core northern zone of Nigeria. Niger Republic, Chad, Mali, Mauritania are all in the Sahelian region that has vast land mass, but with very sparse population. And so how come that there is population explosion in places like Zamfara, Katsina, Jigawa, Gombe, and so on? You keep listing. I flew the length and breadth of northern Nigeria, and from the air you could see vast open land without much houses and absence of civilization. Let every geopolitical zones conduct their census and control their resources, and that is when we'll get our actual number in this country.
It's open to his, how do I call it now? His own
opinion.
So that is opinion, but you can't do hands-on explanation to. That's why we need to conduct it. And no, you can't just theorize about people. There are extra. How do we call it? There are conditions that are extraordinary. So you cannot say because of some theory and add it up. I don't believe that anybody is more than anybody. That's why we are getting it wrong. It's not about numbering of ethnic nationality.
Yeah.
It's not the numbering of political distribution or resources distribution. It is for
benefits of geographical location.
Enclaves. Yeah. Because even if you talk about it, some of us have moved from the south to the north. Some of us are almost northerner than any Sani in Nigeria. And I'm shock you. There are some northerners that have moved to the north and they are
more Okoro
than any southerner. So now when you are doing this census, they will be counted as southerners.
Exactly.
And will be counted as northerners. So it's not about, because even if you see the visitors, sojourners in other regions, they are sometimes even more than the people that they've sojourned. And when they count the census, they will not say this person is from that place. So that's why I say it's not important. What is more important is the distribution, the demography of people, their work, their capacity, what they can do, their growing rates, their ratio of whatever distribution of income, their housing deficits. These are the things we as economists will look at. And that's what's more important to us than all this political brouhaha. So I think we should, and that's the problem. If we have open mind about this population thing, because it's affecting us. For 17 years. We depend on what the world say. Imagine, I'll come to you on Hamara and I tell you have 4 children. Why should I do that? You should know
because
how many children
you have. Because I don't know the number of children I have.
Because you don't want to count your children. So you should know, so that you could be able to plan, not letting me to tell you how many people are in your house.
Okay, so we need to run now. We have about 2 more minutes to wrap up time. Ouch from Abuja says it's really strange that in this day of technology we still do things manually. What has the other censuses done for us? Do we even have a database for people living in Abuja? Great show. Thank you so much. Lady D, your guest is making a point, saying the truth and speaking my mind. I almost didn't want to send in my contribution. Unfortunately, the 2 important individuals were supposed to tune into the program, Listen and Learn, are individually out of the country at the moment. They are incumbent. Hey, Virtue from Aso Drive. That was below the belt, but I want to pretend I don't understand what you're saying. Eh?
I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it also. All right. So by way of wrapping up nicely, let's get your an advice from you as an economist to the country towards further planning. How do we go about it? Right now, the census will not be going on. So what do we do? And subsequently,
as an economist, I look at profit and loss a lot.
Yeah,
I know that the country should not make a loss. So if you remove the 291 out of the 800 and something, we should have about 600 billion still remaining. I think that we should be looking at using technology. We have enough statistics. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
we have enough statistics in this country. So instead of going to do the local manual enumeration, so they call it global remote sensing, whatever, because I don't see it as that. Because what I think they should do is to begin to synchronize our database. The police have, custom have, NIN, National Identity Management have, the immigration have. So the banks have. So let's put all those things together.
Even road safety.
Road safety do have. So let's put all those things. And if that 600 million naira, 600 billion naira is around, let's put it to bring. We have some young tech kids that can put all these things together and it'll give you real statistics of Nigerians.
Okay.
At least a more scientific estimate.
I have enjoyed having this conversation with you. Thank you so much for giving us the economic perspective to it all. Also, we've been discussing the census and the cancellation of the census as it were. And my resource person has been Dr. James Okorafor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for appearing today.
It's a pleasure too.
Okay, so we'll be back with more on the show, on the other segment. But in the meantime, let's go get you the trending news. 95.1 Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria.